Back to the show for a Sunday night live. I know we don't typically go live with a guest on Sundays, but we had to reschedule with Lisa last week, and this was about the only time we can get her in the schedule, and we really wanted to make sure we did this because she has some amazing stuff to share, which we'll get into today. But before that, I just want to remind everybody that tickets are available for our Hawaii conference slash retreat in April of next year, April 20th through the 24th. And if you purchase your ticket, if you want to come and you purchase your ticket before Black Friday, before or on Black Friday, you get entered for a chance to win a $200 discount on your ticket. So anybody that's purchased a ticket before Black Friday gets thrown into a pool, and then we draw a name, and then you'll receive a $200 rebate, for lack of a better term. So if you're interested in coming, it would be a good incentive to buy now because it will fill up quick. The tickets are limited, so it's going to be a lot of fun. We can't wait to see you there. You know, we're going to be going out in a boat and doing some ocean adventures with the dolphins and whales and some sacred sites tours. And Lisa is actually on the Big Island and she does UFO tours out on the Big Island. And we're still in talks, but most likely she will be involved with the event and we'll potentially do a UFO tour and we'll let her tell us more about that. But it's all shaping up. We're really excited about it and we can't wait to see everyone there. So I think, and by the way, all that information is available on our website at journeytotruth.online. And Lisa is not only she is a intuitive channel, a galactic ambassador, for lack of a better term. She communicates with extraterrestrials, higher dimensional beings, and she's authored 4 or 5 books now, if I'm not mistaken, or is it more than that?
6 or 7.
6 or 7. Okay, so even more than I thought. But some of those are one's called the awakening to your multidimensional self, harnessing energy, timelines, and higher consciousness. The other one is Wisdom of the Galactics, channeled messages to elevate your life. And that's something we're going to get into today is this information coming through from the galactics and these higher dimensional beings, because it's a really interesting time right now. And there's a lot of ET communication happening with a lot of people. So it's really interesting to see what's coming through for us. And then she wrote a book called Connection to the Cosmos, Remembering Your Galactic Heritage and Embracing Your Oneness. And you had a book just come out, right, this month on the
I did.
2nd. And that's called Through Loss into Light, A Journey of Grief, Healing, and the Love That Remains. Among the other books you've written, but they all sound amazing. And you've sent us some PDFs, and I skimmed through them. And I'm very excited to get into everything that you have to offer. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's fabulous afternoon here in Hawaii.
Yes, yes. I cannot wait to get out there. And so you have been doing this type of work for how long?
Well, okay. So technically, I've been an experiencer contactee my entire life, and we can talk about how I discovered that. But the actual work with the ETs, I met my Arcturian family and actual Arcturian self back in October of 2018. And it wasn't until I moved here to Hawaii 5 years ago that I really understood like why I was interacting with these beings in a spiritual way. And I already had a spiritual business, but when I got here to the island, I was seeing all of these spacecraft all over the place. And so that's what prompted me to start the UFO tour business under my spiritual business. So really about 5 years coming out of the closet.
That's amazing. So whenever you're talking UFO sightings or seeing these craft, I know what we're used to. It's typically this, light in the sky that does a power up. Maybe they'll stop, maybe they'll move in whatever various directions. But has it been any more than that? Have you had any in like physical craft, even maybe even Earth military type of sightings out there?
Yeah, as far as I know, haven't had any of the military type. I know that, we do have military bases over on Oahu. We do have a training ground here on the Big Island, but it's a small training ground. And so the ones that I have seen that have been more than just the little light flashes and things like that we do see all the time. One of the most significant ones was actually March 7th of 2023. And I remember it very specifically because I was asking for that contact. And it was a personal experience, not on one of my tours. I had been speaking about my book Connection to the Cosmos down at our local bookstore, and which is an hour south of where I live. And on the way home, it was really dark. And our island, if you've been here, very unpopulated, very dark. And so driving Queen K Highway an hour home, the entire hour, I'm just asking for my galactic team, hey guys, I was just talking about you. I really want to see you. Please show me signs that you're here with me. I get almost to my house, like maybe half a block, and I see this really bright light above the tree line. And so I acknowledge it. And I'm like, I see you, stay there. I'm going to park my car in my driveway. So I park my car, walk to the end of the driveway. It's still there. What it looked like was a very big, bright, pulsing star. Now, just like you guys probably, I have Constellation app on my phone. I had to make sure it was actually not a star or a planet because Venus, Sirius, other things like that get mistaken for spacecraft. Nothing was there. And so then I start talking to it. I'm like, okay, I know you're a spacecraft. Please do something for me that a spacecraft can do that a star cannot do. So again, this thing was stationary, but was pulsing. So when I asked it to do something, it completely dimmed out where I couldn't see it anymore. And then a few seconds later, it popped back on full brightness. And I got really excited and I was like, do it again, do it again. And it did it again. And then it popped back on. I was like, do it again. And I asked it 5 times. It did it 5 times. As soon as I stopped asking, it just stayed on and pulsing. And
Wow.
so that's when I got my camera or my phone. I already had the phone, but sometimes we get wrapped up in the moment of just in awe.
Hmm.
So I remembered, okay, I've got my phone. Let me try to take pictures and video of this thing. And so what my eyes were seeing different than what the camera picks up, typical. But finally, at some point, I really had to go in the house. And when I was looking through the photos and video, it was definitely a craft. And it was
Right.
actually a Pleiadian craft.
And and you knew that through, I guess, some sort of a telepathic communication.
Well, I looked the next day. So this is what's so interesting is so the next day was March 8th. And people start waking up, driving to work about 5:30 in the morning. And they're noticing these spaceship clouds all over the island, lenticular type
Hmm.
clouds. And that's highly unusual here. We don't have the right atmospheric conditions to create lenticular clouds. But what was incredible is these clouds fully stayed in place from 5:30 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. that day.
That's
That
perfect. Yeah.
that is the day that I was actually specifically channeling the Pleiadian session for Wisdom of the Galactics.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah, it seems, those lenticular clouds are interesting, and there's actually in the book Life of the Cosmos Clearance, Daniel Salter, he's a military general, I guess. He had above top secret clearance, and he talked about lenticular craft that the military were aware of. And it's not just a theory, like the military actually understands that these are lenticular re-entry vehicles that cloak themselves in clouds, and it's a very real thing. People
Mhm.
see those lenticular clouds and think, oh, there's no craft in there, or that's just a natural phenomenon. And maybe in some cases a cloud can form like that, but and it would make sense that they do. And then if they have a technology that can just mimic that cloud, and you could
Yeah.
very well be looking at a ship when you see that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, clouds are an excellent way for a craft to hide in plain sight because most people do just dismiss them. But we had normal clouds right next to these that were just blowing by because we have really strong trade winds here. And I live in the part of the island in a village called Waikoloa, and its nickname is Waikabloa because it's so windy.
Mhm.
And they were right there in the neighborhood.
Wow. So let's talk about the hot topic that everybody wants to know about. Everybody's talking about Three Eye Atlas. It's coming in. It's, just a clickbait everywhere you go online, but there really is something to it. And I'm just curious, and we'll get into some of the beings and stuff that you actually do channel. But since you are channeling these higher dimensional beings, has anything come across or come onto your radar about Three Eye Atlas or what it is or who's involved with it or anything?
So I haven't specifically tried to tune into who it is. I know other people have, and I'm trying to really just be an observer, but the information that I'm understanding. And no matter what it is, just like a Oumuamua, is that this craft, I do think it's some kind of craft. It's not a comet, it's not an asteroid or whatever, but this craft is to get people's attention on something more than just this physical Earth. And I think it's starting to make people more curious about, okay, what is this? Just like when Oumuamua came in, that wasn't as widely publicized for whatever reason. But this one, really, people are getting the attention on it. And so I know some people have like remote view that it's negative entities. I don't think so.
Right.
Others, love
Same.
and light. If anything, it's that. But really, it's a seed to plant humanity for getting more used to, yes, we do have things outside of this physical Earth reality and even outside of our solar system that are coming in. I mean, those of you like me and like us, we have seen craft, we know they exist, we've had the experiences, but most of Earth is still kind of closed off from that. So this is opening their minds more. That's my take on it.
Yeah. Were you gonna say
That's
something,
my
Aaron?
exact take on it as well. Actually, you nailed it. Yeah, I think that's
Right.
exactly it.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think done
Go ahead.
very intentionally to wake us up and to get us thinking about a life outside of our planet and to be a catalyst for the awakening, right? Um, yeah.
Yeah, and I do agree that also that I think some government agency out there is gauging our reaction to it. And like in the disclosure community and these truther communities and wherever, paranormal, UFO, they want to see how people are responding to it. And there most likely is false narratives being pushed out intentionally to see who will take the bait. I mean, it's definitely like a major IQ test to see where everyone's at. I feel like, COVID was very similar in a sense. Like, okay, let's see who actually falls for this, who literally walks into this trap, and who actually stops and asks questions. So there's definitely something like that going on. But your book, um, The Wisdom of the Galactics. So you just go through all of these races in there. And I'm going to go through some of the races that you cover in that book because it's vast and I'd be curious to know what you've learned about them and if there's any involvement with them in particular right now. So the Agarthans, Andromedans, Arcturians, Blue Avians, Hybrids, Lyrans, Mantis, Orions, Pleiadians, Reptilians, Sirians, Vegans, and Zetas. So, out of all of those, which group would you, I guess, say that you're most connected with?
So I came in first and this isn't the first group that I actually experienced consciously, but the Arcturians were the very first group that came in spiritually, again, back in October of 2018. I was taking a psychic intuition class, and on the first night of class, the teacher led us through a meditative journey to meet a spirit guide that would help us get extra information. Now, I'm trained before that, and for years, I've been trained as a past life regression therapist. So I've done a lot of spirit guide journeys, met humans and animals. This time, though, I went to a completely different realm and in front of me were the most beautiful blue skin beings. Now, I was trying to be normal. I simultaneously had a home staging and interior design business while I had started my spiritual business. So I was trying to be normal to like be taken seriously. So I hadn't gone down like the different ET race rabbit hole yet at that point. But their message to me was, you are one of us, we are one of you, we are family. And
Mhm.
then the one that was to the front, that was the spokesperson, we were to ask if they had a name they wanted to be called. And that one gave me the name Uluru and
Like Australia?
Australia. Yeah. And
So, yeah,
they,
I have more questions about that, but go ahead.
and there's a whole connection there, and they presented me a gift of a quartz crystal. So I came out of the journey. I didn't know who they were as a race, but there was a lady in my class who was like, that sounds like either the Arcturians or the Blue Avians. So I had to go home and Google what those were. And when I saw the images of the Arcturians, it's exactly what I had seen in this. And so then it wasn't until I got here to Hawaii and I started my UFO tour and started again coming out of the closet and sharing my stories. And I was already trained in healing modalities. But when I was writing Connection to the Cosmos, they wanted me to start channeling, specifically Arcturian Uluru. And it took a little while for me to get comfortable to that because I actually grew up in a channeled school, the Ramtha School of Enlightenment. And I know, Aaron, you've got a couple of quotes from Ramtha in your book.
I do. I do.
So
Yeah.
I grew
Very
up in
good.
that school, and
Lady night. Yeah.
so channeling was familiar to me, but I'm like, I would never be a channeler. I can't imagine that. And once I started working with that energy, then I realized Arcturian Uluru was just simply another parallel aspect of myself, which made it a lot easier to channel. And so with that, that connection got stronger and stronger. And then I've also even had external validation that that really is me and my external life, because a new friend, someone I was on their podcast, she didn't know me. She remembers her full life as a Lyran during the time of the Orion Wars, and she had written a book about it. And in the middle of the podcast, she stops and she's like, I know you. She's like, you're Arcturian. I said, yeah. She said, you're a healer. I said, yeah. She's like, I wrote about you in my book. So then she sends me her book, and I'm reading it, and I get to the part where she's writing about me. And I thought it was going to be really generic, but it was not. It was Master Healer Arcturian Uluru, spelled correctly. She had never heard of Uluru. She's not familiar with Australia. She's Canadian, but had never heard of Uluru before. And so, anyway, that's the kind of stuff you can't make that up.
So, okay, let's
Yeah.
talk about this Uluru, however you say it. It's a sacred site in Australia. Many people are familiar with it. And so this Arcturian group specifically, or this individual, what's its connection with that site? Is this where they come from? Is there a history there?
Also, the Arcturians, they have never been a physical presence here on Earth, but they were very heavily involved in the Lemurian civilization, holding the energy and giving higher dimensional information. And Australia was a big part of that as well. So the Arcturians are a key group in Earth's history in terms of bringing that higher consciousness and holding the energy of that like fifth dimensional reality here on Earth.
Right. So let's talk. You talk about kind of navigating other timelines and harnessing that energy and what that looks like. So you're talking about this Arcturian being that's another version of you in another timeline, essentially,
Mhm.
that's existing simultaneously, which means that we're talking quantum mechanics,
Yeah.
superposition, the many worlds theory, right? So, like, that's obviously only one aspect of yourself, and there's many more. But maybe you can explain what your experiences has been discovering that that is a reality, that there are more than one of you living simultaneously that you're actually able to communicate with, because that's something that's happening more and more. I've
Mhm.
I've kind of wrote about it in my book a little bit, but I'm not necessarily in communication with another version of myself. But more and more people are, and that's kind of a hard concept to wrap your head around, but it's real, and I believe it's real. So maybe you can help us understand and the audience understand like what that looks like and what it looked like for you.
Okay, well, and so just to give just a little background, I have been on this deep dive spiritual journey for coming up to 40 years. So I started the Ramp School when I was 13 back in 1986. So before you guys were born.
Yeah.
And so I was learning about higher consciousness, multiple dimensional reality, like all of that from age 13 onward. But, my teenage brain, it was soaking it in, but it didn't quite get it. And it wasn't until I really did deep dive into my own personal, like tumultuous roller coaster ride adult journey to come to understand that multidimensionality, um, for me to really wrap my head around it. So if it's hard for people to understand, give your patience, give
Right.
yourselves space, right?
Yeah.
So I want to preface that. So when, again, back in 2022, when I realized, okay, the Luru is me. Now, again, I'm a trained past life, parallel life regression therapist. And so I've experienced other lives. I've been a Syrian ET as a genetic engineer during the building of the pyramids, and I've seen other lives like that. And thinking of them simultaneously, though, that was a little different than realizing, okay, Uluru is a healer, I'm a healer. When I acknowledged it, I started channeling that healing energy from that realm through me as Earth Lisa to create an environment for my clients in Earth. Now, when the beginning of 2023, that's when they're like, okay, it's time to bring in some of your other groups, which are the ones that you read off. And what I realized as each group, actually, before I agreed, I'm like, let me think about this, because again, I didn't plan to be a channel. And so what I understood was that, okay, these other ETs are also aspects of myself. So I'm just tapping into my parallel realities from these realms to pull forth that wisdom. And anyone can do this, right? So it's just a matter, number one, knowing that it exists. And then number two, knowing how to do it
Right.
and trusting it. And so because I knew how to raise my vibration, and that's the key to, communicating with the higher dimensionals, which is the ones that we should all want to be communicating with, not necessarily the 3D ones. And so when I was just letting it happen, because some people were like, well, how do you know that it was that group? And it's because I had set an intention that specific day. This is the group I'm pulling through.
Right.
So I had control over who was coming through.
So, okay, like you're talking about, obviously you would rather connect with the higher dimensional beings, and so you have a whole list of ETs here, which some of them have been explained to also exist in the 3D. So then how do you know when you're communicating with a lower dimensional 3D reptilian or a higher dimensional benevolent reptilian? Like what's the difference? And like how did you learn how to navigate that?
Okay, the message that's coming through is how you know. If
Okay.
it's anything not of love, then it's 3D or lower dimensional. But if it's coming from love, and that's the bait, like that's the underlying energy of it, then you're in that higher dimensional frequency. And
So
so
go ahead.
I
Go ahead.
I did take a channeling class. I had read a book, but I'm like, okay, this isn't, I can read the book, but I need help. Like I'm a hands-on kind of learner. And so I took a channeling class and learned how to really, really open up that and know who is going to come through and feel that energy. And so that was a practice.
So what kind of message do you get from a higher dimensional reptilian, as an example?
Well,
I'm very curious because this is something that obviously there's all these narratives that all the reptilians are bad, which doesn't make any sense to me. But then there's this, they're all been cleaned up, they're not here anymore. Like there's all these narratives, and I don't know if any of them are necessarily entirely true. But I do wonder, like, okay, if somebody is in communication with a benevolent group, what does that information look like? What does that message look like?
okay, well, and I thank you for that question. And also, so I have my PhD in zoology and marine biology. So as a zoologist, what I will say is there is so much biodiversity of reptilian races out there, not just the ones that people give the bad rap to.
Right.
So from different star systems, they're in different dimensional frequencies, here on Earth as well, different dimensional frequencies, all of that. So you can't lump them in one category, just like you can't lump grays in one category as well, right?
Or humans
Or
even.
humans,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's
Especially humans. Yeah.
and that's what I share a lot on my UFO tours, because they're like, what about the bad ones? I'm like, well, we have some humans that are kind, compassionate, loving, service to others. And then we have other humans that are the complete opposite of that. So within a race, even there are individuals that are more service to others and loving. So you can't even put just one race into the same basket like humans. So in terms of the messages that they really shared through me, in in that particular session was all about adaptability and transformation. Because if you think about a reptile here on Earth, and again, we're going like zoology, which I used to teach, think about how they shed their skin. They're continually evolving, expanding, adapting to their environment, to their world, and transforming. And so, really, it's the message that comes through is that that is our natural state of being, is evolving. We're not meant to stay the same. And I know
Right.
some people get locked into that, but we're here to experience, these different lessons and grow through them and expand even further.
Right. It's a big game of adapt and overcome for all of us, you know.
Yeah.
And, one of these days we might be able to lose an arm and grow it back. Who knows?
Well, we
But
we we do have that ability.
right,
Supposedly. We do, but we just have to fully believe that we do and create.
right.
Right.
Were you gonna say something, Aaron?
Uh, no, but that's a good point, is that we haven't even activated our full potential yet. And everyone's wanting disclosure and wanting these things outside of them to save them. It's like we haven't even activated like we are that,
We
but we're
are.
waiting for something else. So the real disclosure is going to come through us. It's not going to come from an external or the real cleanup. I mean, there's help going on. There's lots of it going on, but at the end of the day, we have to take responsibility for ourselves and step into our own power. And I think that's what the real benevolent races that are helping right now are. They're helping, they're doing what they can, but they're also helping in that regard, mainly of like getting us to wake up to that and to activate, right?
Right. Yeah,
Is that
great
is
point.
that is that your experience as well?
Totally,
Okay.
completely. Like it all starts within. And
Yeah.
so one of the things about 4.5 years ago, they very clearly told me that I had to stay out of the media, stay out of politics, anything polarized. They
Mhm.
wanted me to completely create my own happy bubble where I could hold my frequency high and maintain my energy in that state, and that is what helps Earth, not in terms of creating more polarization. And I know that there are some people in our ufology world who perhaps that is their mission, but that isn't the mission that I came here to do. I came here to uplift and hold that frequency high.
Right. So how do you make
Yeah.
sense of something like the Boogosphere? This alleged piece of technology that's come here and like everyone's working with it and everyone's getting messages from it. People are remote viewing it. I mean, there's a whole thing. I'm sure you're well aware of it. Do you think that comes from a higher, is it a benevolent agenda? Or do you think there's something underlying that might not be in our best interest?
Everything is for us, in my understanding, and it's all how we perceive it. And so for some people, they're going to perceive it in a like lower vibrational negative light, kind of like Three Eye Atlas. Others, it's basically a mirror for them because we all create our own reality. And so
Right.
we have multiple realities existing.
Right. You're
Yeah.
answering you're answering questions like my questions were being answered during my mushroom trip. Everything was like from the highest possible level. Like you never get the
Yeah.
answer you want, but it's like the answer
Yes.
you need, type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I
Well,
feel like there are multiple levels
Right.
of everything. It's like it's like, okay, do you want the answer from the highest level, which is like what you're giving, or do you want a lower level answer? And because a lot of times somebody will say something and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's technically true from one perspective or one level, but they're not seeing the greater big picture level. And that's what I always try to like go back to and but
yeah.
it's easy to lose sight of that a lot and you get caught in the lower level stuff only and then you're like, oh, wait a second.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we're bigger
Well,
than all of this at the end of the day.
and that's where, like, I know you guys got interested in this phenomena, like from Secret Space Program and other,
Which is
like
all very real. Yeah.
it's
No
real
one
for
can-
sure. And it's an aspect. But like for me, what they, again, probably the years of training, like my entire life of training to get out of the muck to get out of 3D and really keep that higher perspective. And I can tell you that's taken work. It's taken clearing away emotions and trauma. And I used to be highly political, very much an activist, like really care about like conspiracy theories and other things like that. And they told me, no, you got to stop that. You really do have to see things and understand it from that higher perspective so that you can be love.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then
Again,
you can still talk about those things and deal, but you're dealing with it from a much higher place rather than being caught down in it, I
yeah,
guess is a way to put it. Yeah.
A- And yeah, and I think we all that's all I think that's a necessary step for all of us on this journey. Like
Mhm.
I don't see how somebody couldn't go through an awakening and get caught up in some of those theories
yeah,
because once you understand, okay, this planet isn't what I thought it was. We've been lied to forever, the whole 9 yards. You start asking questions and you're actually craving information and craving the truth and you fall for that stuff and you get into it and but that's how you learn and there's like your higher self has
Right.
set up lessons within that for you to learn along the way
Right.
so it's a beautiful thing whenever you're able to look back on it and understand how it was serving you but it's only meant as a stepping stone like
right.
you can't get if you're just stuck online every day perpetuating these false narratives or whatever it is these politically charged issues, whatever it is, if you get stuck perpetuating that, like then you're just feeding that matrix, right? So it's understanding that anything out there, including 3D Atlas, everything, it's just a stepping stone. Yes, it
Mhm.
might be a necessary stepping stone for a lot of people, especially for consciousness expansion, but that doesn't mean you're supposed to stay there. In fact, if you stay there, you're
Right.
doing yourself a disservice. And I understand some people like to become experts in their field and they like to focus on things, and we need those people. Everybody creates a balance. But if you understand what you're here to do, I think that it's not serving yourself to just stay in one place. Like we're constantly growing, right?
We are, and that's what we're here to do. I mean,
Hmm.
that's why we chose to come play in Earth School,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, what kind of wisdom would you say? What's the most impactful bit of information that's come through that's really helped transform your life and pull you out of whatever, mud that you were stuck in? Because we all get to a place in life where we don't know where to go next. So, how has
Yeah.
this information helped you?
Yeah. Well, and I can say in my almost 53 years of life, I've been in a lot of mud. I've been stuck.
Right.
Had
Yeah.
a lot of life experience. And the most recent, I'll bring this up because it may resonate with some of your audience. But just over 2 years ago, my husband committed suicide.
Oh, I'm
Oh my
And
sorry.
goodness. I'm so sorry.
so that was me. Like I was already deep in the spiritual work and on this galactic journey already. And that was a really interesting thing because all the information that I had gotten from my team and that I was continually getting and the healing really helped me like much quicker get through that healing journey than a lot of people do in this earth because number one, I know that this costume that we're wearing, it's
Right.
just a costume. It's not who we are.
Right.
And so that energy doesn't die, the soul doesn't die, and we can access those other realms.
Hmm.
And so my husband, he was coming through from the other side, like almost immediately after he
Wow.
passed.
Wow.
Now, my team, like the next morning after I found him, um, out on the lanai and I'm talking to the trees and my team. And I'm like, did it really, like, I knew it was a major quantum timeline shift for that happening, like really dramatic. And I was like, did it really have to be that extreme? And the very clear answer I got back was yes. In order for you to be fully like immersed in your purpose here on earth, he couldn't be in your energy anymore. And so I knew that intellectually, but like as a human, that's really hard to understand. But over
Right.
the last 2 years, he's come through and through different psychic mediums, he's come through and said, I could not support you in the physical the way that you need to be supported, but I can do it so much more from the other side. And he said, you know how I was kind of on the fence about your understanding of like the ETs and even all your spiritual beliefs. he said, everything is real. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm so
Hmm.
proud of you. And
Right.
for me, just knowing that we are, we've got soul contract agreements we come into play with. We come in, like I agreed to be a galactic ambassador, and here I am. And I didn't know I was, but again, being the experiencer my whole life and now understanding that hindsight, I can understand like why I had all the experiences I did.
Right.
And we create our reality. And that's the biggest thing that I learned at Rampa school that I have been able to, and my ETs are like, yes, create your reality, whatever you focus on, wherever your energy is, that is, what you are experiencing. And so from that point forward, after his death, I was like, okay, what reality am I creating now? What kind
Mhm.
of life do I want to move forward with?
Yeah. I agree 100% with what you just said as far as creating your own reality. It takes a long time to understand how real that actually is, how true that actually is, I should say.
Yeah.
And we constantly gaslight ourselves sometimes into believing that we can't do that because we're addicted to our pain or whatever it is the story that we're telling ourselves, right? That's holding us back because actually that change, what's on the other side of that is beautiful, it's scary, and not everyone's ready for it. So when you realize you can create that type of stuff, it's like tapping into this power that you might not even be ready to harness yet. So it's really interesting. But I also agree with you that we can like accelerate a grieving process or a healing process, especially having this awareness. I just went through something very heavy
Mm.
that ordinarily, I mean, it should take a person a year to get through. And I felt like it happened almost instantly. Like I had this amazing, profound spiritual experience that like I learned this like a lifetime's worth of lessons in like 1 minute. Like it was this crazy thing, and I'm not going to get into now, but I was like, oh my gosh, like I just proved to myself that like it only takes as long as we believe it needs to take.
Yeah.
So like this journey in whatever it is in life, it only takes as long as you think it needs to.
It's
And yeah, go ahead if you
Oh,
want to
I
say
was
something to
just
that.
going to say, just to add on to that real quick, and then I want to hear more of what you're saying, is that one of the things he said, even a week after he passed, through my teacher, who's psychic medium, he was like, it's okay to be happy sooner than later. Like on the other side, time doesn't exist.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Right.
Right. And I agree with that. But that's, there's like you said, there's a human
There is.
aspect there that makes that hard. I mean, unless you're Charlie Kirk's wife, it's gonna
Yeah,
take you
that's
a little
another
time.
story.
It's
Yeah.
a bad joke, but
Uh,
um, were you gonna say something, Aaron?
no, that's it's funny because this year you and I have both gone through some intense stuff because both of my parents passed away this
Right.
year. Um,
And
I'm 38. I was 37, almost 38 when my mom passed. In January, she had stage 4 liver cancer, and that was like unexpected out of the blue when she got that last summer. And she was always taking care of my dad. My dad, we've kind of been expecting any time now for the last like 12 years or so. And then he went a few months after her, so it was like the order was reversed.
Mhm.
But still, they both this year, so it was really intense. But I like it processed so much faster than I expected, or that I thought, where like society kind of like programming is like, oh, this is going to be like years of grieving or however long, and I'm still like, I still have feelings there, but like
And
the
you will.
intense part of it, and right, but like exactly what Tyler said, it was like a really short and intense grieving process, but then I like grew from that. And I
yeah,
feel like, depends on where you're at, depends on how long it takes or your own beliefs, right? And lessons that come and growth that comes from that is up to where you're at and what you're open to, right?
yeah, yeah. I will say, knowing you, I understand that you already understood tr death is just a transition. Are we lagging a little bit? Are we good?
A little bit.
Um, yeah, that's weird. Anyway, so you like I understand. I knew that you already had that understanding fundamentally of like, okay,
It
we're not actually dying here, right?
helps.
So that helps tremendously, actually. I didn't have that awareness when my mom passed away, so it took me a
Right.
long time to discover that. But I've also watched you rapidly, go through this process in such a beautiful way. It's impressive, and I learned a lot about you and from you from that, um, because you stayed so strong through the entire thing, and it's just a testament, I think, of where humanity is going right now. When you are in
Mhm.
this path, like it literally is up to you and how long this stuff needs to take, and it kind of reminds me of this quantum physicist that I met here in Sedona. He worked 40 years in the shadow government. He's 85 years old, working on reverse engineering UFOs, the whole nine yards. And I asked him um, about, the technology to get from here to there. And he said it all depends on the group that's dealing with the technology. He said if they believe it needs to take them 3 weeks to get to Mars in this specific craft, it's going to take them 3 weeks to get to Mars in that craft. If they believe they can get there instantaneously through a jump room or a wormhole, or whatever it is, they will find a way to get there instantaneously because they create that, right? And he
Mhm.
said, so every group out there is working on a different belief system that's literally creating a different reality of what's possible, a whole set of rules for what's possible based on what their belief system is creating. So we're doing that here for ourselves and for a collective. And I know that I'm sure the ETs have brought information through as far as that goes, about like travel. Like you said, there is no time. Like, have you gotten information about like how they travel in these craft that you're seeing and what technology they're using and stuff?
Actually, one of my least things that I'm interested in is their technology. Um, I I'm a scientist or trained scientist, but I was never an engineer, and so I was more interested in who they are and what they understand, not like how they're traveling. But I do know some of them, like it's instantaneous and they're just traveling, like I think they're someplace or, they're
Yeah.
there, right? So most of them, and some of them are just always here because they're interdimensional and they're just already here on Earth, just in higher dimensions.
Right. Well, I would say that you're focusing on the important aspects of it. Like the technology is important to some people, and it is important because it plays a role in it. But I think that's where I guess you could say our government, our shadow government, has gone wrong. They never had a vested interest in asking the questions that you're asking. They were actually far more interested in the technology, which actually pulled them off of a path of understanding that they already could do it themselves, right? So they believe there has to be this middleman, and that's where they created that for themselves, right?
Right. Well, and one of the things, again, going back to ramp there, because I do have to credit a lot to my basic spiritual understanding from that school, is that we are our own spacecraft. We can actually travel ourselves with our energy fields. We can biolocate. Now,
Yeah.
that takes practice and knowing and understanding the mechanics and the consciousness that goes with it, but it is very possible. And so really, again, it's within.
Right.
Everything is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I've heard many people tell stories of either bilocating or even teleporting. But like you said, they had to work up to be there. Like I wasn't just instantly able to do it. You have to like
Yeah.
activate those abilities, so to speak. I was just watching I watch Jeff Mara podcast every once in a while, and I don't know if you know Dr. Bruce Goldberg. He's had him on a few times, and the last one he said he accidentally teleported is how he described because he wasn't even trying to, and he thought he was having a dream at first or not, or no, sorry, he thought he was having an out of body experience, and where he was on a beach, and then he came back and there was sand all over his clothes and all over his stuff, and he's like, I don't live anywhere close to the beach. Nowhere. There's no sand anywhere. And he's like, oh my God, I teleported. And he wasn't even trying to, he was trying to go out of body, but he ended up physically teleporting and coming
Hmm.
back.
Right.
Really.
Jean-Charles Moyen shares a story like that
That's
similarly,
right. That's right.
and I actually had something like that happen to me in Mount Shasta actually recently, where I
Oh,
went.
really?
I thought I was meditating, and I thought I was like just bilocating or whatever into this healing chamber in Telos, right? Where there's like emerald green water. And it was this whole thing, and I was immersed. I met this woman down there. She was like, "Do you want a tour, or do you just want to go to the chamber?" And I was like really desperately kind of like ill at the moment, and I needed some help. And I went into this chamber and the water. It was just a whole experience. I have a great detailed recall of it. And I came back from that meditation and I just like had to remember that I didn't know I was even meditating. I was gone out of my body, right? Well, that day I went to use the bathroom, and this might be TMI, but my pee was emerald green,
Oh,
and
wow.
and it shouldn't have been, but I was in this emerald green healing chamber, for lack of a better, pond, pool, whatever. And and how it worked was my pores, my body was absorbing it all like into a cellular level, and it like flushes your system out, right? And twice that day, my pee was emerald green, and I was like, was I actually there? Like, what actually
Yeah.
happened here? You know? And
There
that,
you go.
but because I don't know, like, it was the one and only meditation I've ever done where I forgot about my body. You know,
Mhm.
we always try to accomplish that, but that actually happened until I was back and I remember where I was sitting. I was actually kind of in an uncomfortable position, you know, and I had to like move, get feeling back. But it happens. That can happen. And sorry that I had to interject
Yeah.
that story, but it just
No.
fits right in. Yeah.
It's a great story. Well, and that's one thing that I want to throw out there too for the audience, because you guys probably know this, but like our team, they can't go against our free will, right? And
Right.
Right.
so, but they can help us with healing. And I know my most profound experience in that of asking was that night that I discovered my husband. And for I was in the middle of leading a galactic retreat. So I wasn't even staying at our house, but I had to come back to get eggs. So I had rented condos. So I'm back at the condo and I'm kind of starfished on the bed. And I'm like, team, please help me. And this blue swirling energy came into the room. So I could see the blue and it's swirling all around me. I could feel it in every cell in my body. And what it was doing was helping to regulate my nervous system. And in the morning when I woke up, you know, even after this traumatic event, my nervous system was completely calm and neutral. Now I was still maybe in a bit of state of shock, but like that energy and what you experienced
Yeah.
is completely real.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you literally brought that in, but that's just it. You have to ask for it or create it. And
Yeah.
that's what I did because I was sitting there in meditation at first, and I was like really wanting to meet someone from Telos, and I was really wanting like to see and like waiting for this communication, and then like I got this clear message, like stop waiting and create it, create the experience. So I just like, okay. So I just literally imagined myself like teleporting down into Telos and like meeting this girl and like this whole, but then it became real.
Yeah.
And then I was there and I was having this conversation and I literally had like this whole weird thing happen afterwards. And I was like, wow, did I actually do that? You know? So, um,
Yeah.
I want to, well, go ahead, Aaron.
And you had your inner earth being experience years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean,
Amazing.
which I essentially created by
Which
putting
you
so much energy
brought
into.
that in as
Yeah.
well. Right. Exactly.
Okay, so you know all of these groups that you are in contact with, which ones? I know we only covered a few of them. I'm just looking. So the Zetas, that's another one that a lot of people have pause about, and I think that's what you have behind you there, right?
Yes.
Some of those grays.
I love
Maybe
my
you,
service.
maybe you could bring some clarity as far as who they are, because sometimes you say Zeta, and some people automatically think that you're being controlled by some negative being or you're channeling a negative being, and they don't trust the information. And I get it
Yeah.
because there are probably negative groups there's trickster energy out there. Everything's been hijacked. So you do have to like, you know, be careful, be cautious. But what has your experience been with that?
Okay, well, so I love my Zetas. I mean, I love all of them, but I love my Zetas. And I know that as Earth Lisa, I signed up to be part of the Zeta Human Hybrid Program. So I do have hybrid children somewhere out there that I haven't met yet, but I'm going to. And I know um, I remember being like a Zeta and being like, oh, you need to volunteer to go to Earth to be part of that program. Okay, sign me up. Yes.
Hmm.
Because it is an evolution of who we are as humans, and it's an evolution of who the Zetas are. Because they had bred out all their emotions and become sterile, and that whole storyline that probably others have shared.
Yeah.
And they have evolved. They've recognized the error of their ways in terms of doing that. And so now they are, doing something that is for the betterment or evolution of the soul experience, because there ultimately is no good or bad ever, no matter what someone's interpretation of it is. And so a lot of the people who feel violated by the Zetas that are part of this program, typically it's because they don't have the higher perspective spiritual awareness that they signed up for it. That's my understanding, because when I have regressed people, or, Dolores Cannon did all that work with people getting their memories back, and it was never actually a bad experience. They understand, like, oh, they were actually, I was part of this program. So that is one group. The other thing, though, one of their beautiful lessons that they can give to humanity is partly in their neutrality, of being neutral in their emotions, because yes, we're here to have these human emotions, but we're not meant to get addicted to the emotions and get stuck. And when we're manifesting, we set the intention, we put the emotion out there. But then when we go neutral and let go of the outcome, and it's this or something better, then things can unfold even easier.
100%. Detaching from the outcome is actually crucial to success, I
Yeah.
would say. And, we could have a whole conversation about that. But I would say that's how this podcast even got to where it's at. Because when we
Yeah.
started, we had zero expectations. In fact, I had less than zero expectations. It was just like
Right.
I thought it was going to
We
be
had
a
less than zero.
I thought it was going to be just such like a little temporary fun thing we were going to do, and like no one was going to watch. And it turned
Well,
into
that's the key. We were
documentaries
just
and
we
yeah,
were just having fun, and we like stayed consistent with it, but we were just having fun. And then we
right.
just kept going and going and going, and it just snowballed into what it became, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
It's
having
like
fun is what we're here to do on Earth too, right?
Right.
exactly. It's like the whole what's the saying? Follow your bliss,
Yeah.
right? Or follow your highest excitement. People say it differently. It all means the same thing. You're doing what you're passionate about, what you're fully invested in, what you want to be doing, not something because you're trying to get something else
Yeah.
Hmm.
or trying to do something out of obligation because you think you have to because someone else says you have to or any of that stuff. That's where so many people get off track in life, right? And we're
Yeah.
almost programmed in that way.
Mhm.
And that's the Matrix kind of like is constantly trying to tell you, you need to do this, you need to do that. You gotta, this is
Right.
only what's acceptable.
Right.
You're never gonna make money doing X, Y, and Z, like, because it's all about money. Like,
Right. In fact, like the money, it becomes just a natural, accidental byproduct of having fun and pursuing something like this, right? It
exactly.
wasn't even a year. I mean, how long? 4 years into it before we realized like, oh, there's like a little income here or whatever. But it was
Just
never
starting
about
at that
that.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was never about that. And I think had we gone into this with the mindset like, oh, let's start a podcast to make money, like we would have never, that would have never worked.
Never worked. Yeah.
Right.
It wouldn't have. Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Going back to the Zetas, I want to ask you the, so you believe that, do you believe that the Zetas are us from the future?
Um, yes and no. I mean, again,
Okay.
all realities are existing
Right.
simultaneously. So yeah, there's a reality where they are. And
Mhm.
reality, like, Bashar says he's from the future and all that, but it's all parallel. So
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I just didn't know what your thoughts on that were because that's like a very triggering topic for a lot of people. And, there's a whole
yeah.
online debate, battle, whatever you want to call over this. And it's just, I personally have read a number of books that build a case for that being the truth. And I do believe there's something to that. Absolutely.
So
Um,
can I say
go ahead.
something real quick about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, please.
Again, because at the quantum level, all timelines are existing simultaneously. So
Exactly.
there is no past, there is no future. And so we might perceive it as future, but others perceive it as past.
Right.
It's
Right.
existing now. And so Lisa Royal Holt, I love,
That's awesome.
I
Yeah.
forget I think it was Germaine, who's her historian, ET, who she channeled the information of where the Zetas started from, the apex planet in Lyra, right?
Right.
That whole thing. And I really highly resonate with that. Like, in fact, I'm getting full chills like that story of the Zetas, I completely resonate with. And even though it's history, but it's not. It could also, it's simultaneous. So it's all how someone perceives it, from my understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a fascinating topic of parallel realities and even time travel and stuff. I read this book called Jaguar Hope, and it's a whole long story. But anyway, it's about this group of Pleiadians that needed to they were having a similar issue that the Greys were having as far as like, okay, they weren't able to reproduce anymore. So they had to go back in the timeline and figure out where they can correct it. So they took this group, like five different groups, and they inserted themselves in Earth's timeline, all simultaneous to them, but they landed on Earth in a linear timeline at different points in history, right?
Mhm.
So they all arrived on Earth at the exact same moment, but one of them was 2025, one of them was the Roman Empire, one of them was in the future. But for them, it was literally all instantaneously at that moment. And each one of those groups then had their own ET encounter with that group. And but they all came from the same place, but they show up in our timeline at different places because time is linear here, right?
Right.
And it's just a really interesting concept to wrap your head around
It
how
is.
that works.
It is. And like it can be too much for some people.
Yeah,
And what I would offer is don't get bogged down in the mechanics of it.
right.
It's more of just understanding, okay, yes, that's just how it is.
How many of these
Yeah.
groups are on Earth in a physical sense that are actually in a higher dimensional beings, but here in a physical sense, maybe in an Earth or whatever underground? Like, is that the case?
Yes. I mean, I would say like all of them that I deal with do have presence in some form or other here with Earth. They're connected somehow. And there are many more groups. This is just the tip of the iceberg, right? And these were the original 13 that I wanted to connect with, or that I was told to connect with. I didn't even decide. It was like, okay, write these names down, and now you're going to connect with those aspects of yourself. But we definitely have physical presence with other groups here on Earth too.
Right. And from your understanding, are some of them residing or have been here the whole time, I
Yeah.
should say?
Yes.
It,
Yeah.
it's
I mean, we've had ETs since the beginning of Earth's history.
right.
Yeah.
And then definitely through our human evolution, they've modified us. I have full remembrance of a life of being one of those ETs doing that to the humans.
Really.
And yeah, and I also have a full memory through regression of being energy holding the space for Earth and letting the powers be know that, okay, Earth is ready now to seed the animals. And I think that that is why I became zoologist, marine biologist in this life. Like I've been obsessed with animals my entire life.
Right.
And I'm also in other realms like a keeper of the DNA for all these different systems. And I've been, genetic engineer, and like there's a lot of this diversity that I have been a part of.
hmm
Yeah.
and it builds you into where you're at now. Like all of that, there wasn't nothing was fair waste, even if it was a hard time.
Yeah.
And I think it's a beautiful path. The book, Dolores, you mentioned Dolores Cannon earlier, and this is her book, The Custodians,
Great
which
book.
is it's a great book. It's about basically it specifically focuses on people who've, I guess, been abducted, right? And
Mhm.
then so they regress, and like all this information comes through. Cases of missing time, spacecraft from other dimension and planes of existence, condensed and distorted time, alien and government cooperation and bartering, purposes and locations of implants in the human body, screen memories, pure energy beings and transformation into the physical, solid matter transportation of human beings, the lost astronauts, the differences and functions of alien races, reasons for abductions, and various genetic programs. Fascinating book, covers it all. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up about it is some of the information that comes through one of those groups is they talk about having been here as Earth was being created. They had essentially a pocket dimension inside of a mountain range that had been solidified, but the rest of the planet was still forming. But this pocket reality that existed outside of time was keeping them safe. So they had been here literally since its inception. And
Mhm.
according to this group, it was is the exact center of the universe, which is a bold claim. And
Mm.
they said, why do you think Earth is so highly sought after? You're literally at the center of the universe is within your planet, is what they said in this book.
Mm.
If that's true or not, that's obviously a crazy bold claim. But maybe
Yeah.
in some capacity, it could be metaphorically true for some reason. But they've been here the entire time, is what they described, like before humans were even a thought, right? So that's how far back we have to go with this stuff. We always like keep ourselves confined to biblical narratives in the Bible and stuff, but that's only the last part of the story.
Yeah, I didn't grow up with that paradigm at all, like you did,
Hmm.
Aaron. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I did
Yeah.
read your back. And so yeah, I that never made sense to me. The whole Earth is only, or humans and Earth is only this amount of time.
Yeah,
And even so,
Yeah.
I have a PhD again, zoology, marine biology, evolutionary biology. So what I was learning, but then also teaching my students is so far different than what I understand now. And like if any of my cohorts from academia like would ever see me now speaking about this, saying, what they still understand about evolution is completely wrong.
right,
I would I'm already like I took checked out like 22 years ago from academia because it was too confined to like yeah, the narrative
Dogmatic.
very
Yeah.
much. And you're only going to get grant money and your published
Hmm.
papers done if you're within the confines of what they allow.
Yeah. Which is not science
It isn't
or anything. Like it's funny because that goes directly against what they claim to be doing,
exactly.
which is the irony there. Yeah.
so the evolution of us right now today and this ascension that's happening, what does that look like? So evolution, like you said, isn't what we've been told. Like Darwin's theory of evolution is obviously planted into our timeline to keep us, almost to cut us off from our true origins, basically.
Yeah,
But moving forward, this ascension is an evolution.
it is.
But what does that look like for our physical bodies? Like, is this just something that happens generationally and we just kind of, next thing you know, we're there, our children are different? What does it look like to you?
Well, it looks different for everyone depending on what timeline they're a part of, because we can have our next door neighbor being on a totally different timeline than what the three of us are on.
Right.
And so as our vibration starts to raise and we're able to maintain that frequency and those higher vibrations, that's when we activate that latent DNA, that so-called junk DNA that is our superhuman powers. And our body starts to change into more crystalline kind of body. And so
Right.
body is transforming. And in fact, one of my best friends here on the island, she and I, over the last several months, have been noticing major changes in our own physical bodies in terms of the energy that we're able to maintain, but then also even the foods that we're ingesting are affecting us very
Hmm.
differently than they ever have. And I went through over the last, now it's coming up on 4 months, a major kind of physical health crisis when it came to food and drink that I was putting into my body. And it was my body's way of showing me, okay, we need to like start fresh, start clean. So I did these different cleanses and cut out a bunch of stuff that I was normally eating that I used to be fine with. And now I've had to like reanalyze, like, okay, what does my body actually want and need as opposed to what I was doing? Because the body now is catching up to that frequency and it wants different things. And so
Yes.
for people who out there who are having health issues, and again, it's not like me as a healer, it's not like I don't ever have issues because things come up to the surface to be revealed to then be healed, right? To notice, like, okay, this is what's going on, pay attention to this. So I've been able to like flush, and know that, okay, yeah, the food and what I'm putting into my mouth really does matter now to my body because
Yeah.
of this upgrade.
Yeah, I'm experiencing something very similar right now, in fact. And it has to do with food, but also I think just like I have like certain body pains that are being highlighted that also are showing me like emotional healing and stuff. So it's also the food, but your body is also telling you like other things. Like if you listen to your body, it's really trying to tell you something, and you don't have to live with those pains. And that's one of the things I struggle with, in fact, because I'm trying to figure out like the root emotional cause of some of this stuff. And you think you get it, you think you got it, and you're feeling good, but then it comes back and then like another layer, whatever. So, but your body, like I think if we're actually serious about moving into these higher frequencies with the Earth, who's getting ready to do this quantum leap, as our last guest like to called it. She called it a quantum leap, and we're at like this quantum mass right now. But I feel like if you really want to move through that and go with the Earth comfortably, that you have to get your body prepared.
Yeah, for sure. And the energy, when I started channeling, the frequency is so much higher that my physical body, it had a hard time at first.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I would have to drink electrolytes and nap. I'm not a napper at all, but so my body had to slowly go through this process of running that higher energy.
Mhm.
And so there are things like that that can happen. It doesn't have to happen, but that's what happened for me. And you are right, Tyler, in terms of the emotions. So for me, it wasn't just the food, it was when I was going through the major editing process with my editor for the new book, because I was talking about, this grief process and it's a cycle, right? Grief is a cycle. And rereading my stuff over and over was exposing deeper and deeper layers of the emotions
Mhm.
that didn't stem from my husband. They stemmed from my mother and being in the womb and
Right.
not being wanted. And so that was something that was like, okay, we got to work, like reframe this not being wanted kind of thing. And so that's been part of the process.
Yeah, so as a reprogram, a deprogramming and reprogramming, and like with a program that's actually going to serve you and not suppress you. Um, so Aaron, were you going to say something, by the way?
No, no, no.
Um, yeah, I don't know what I was going to say, but it's interesting. I think like, okay, we're moving into these higher frequencies. Our bodies are trying to tell us something, right? But
Mhm.
also, I think like our physical reality is changing too. And like it's becoming multidimensional in the sense where I truly believe that, we're seeing like these sacred sites online. I'm seeing like images. I'm like, I've never seen that. I've never learned about it in school. Yet here it is, and it's in China or wherever it is, and there's this whole history. Everybody I know never heard of it before, but yet there it is. And you go online, there's pictures. I'm like, are realities merging here? Is this something that coming in
Timelines.
from another timeline and it's just kind of being solidified, and there's already a whole history of it, but it's not from the reality I was born into.
Yes.
Do you think that's happening?
Oh, yeah. When we are shifting into other timelines, especially if they are quantum leaps into timelines, not just baby steps,
Right.
then there's a whole different past or history that is there for us, including even the stories around how we experienced our childhood with our parents, our friends. Like everything is rewritten in terms of what those memories hold in that timeline.
Yeah, and I think that would help
Yeah.
explain why when you talk to an old friend about a memory when you're reminiscing, like it appears different
Mhm.
sometimes. I've experienced this, and in fact, sometimes it's been entirely different, or my friend doesn't remember it at all.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
start to wonder if was I just drunk? Was I crazy? Am I crazy? I'm like, no, that happened, but they like no recollection, right?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. I think that there's we're seeing these science papers coming out. These physicists are finally realizing that physics needs to be reworked, right? Because it just doesn't make it's not working. It doesn't cut it anymore. It doesn't explain what's happening in our reality. So we're moving into this quantum realm, and quantum's a big word that gets thrown around, but it really is quantum physics, quantum financial system, quantum this, quantum that, quantum mass, quantum leap. It's all quantum, which is simultaneously
Yeah.
across space and time. It doesn't matter where you are, so it's really interesting to me to see how everything like reality is literally being reprogrammed, rewritten. Like the whole blueprint is changing, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, we have that beautiful ability to rewire our brains.
Right.
And really, when as long as we acknowledge stuff, we understand that we can change even the past, even though people say you can't change the past. You can actually change your past reality and your experiences of that, or you can understand it from the higher perspective. And when you do that, that actually does rewire the brain to a new reality.
Okay, explain to
Yeah.
somebody like they don't know how to do that, how to do that.
Well,
How do you change your past and understand that it worked?
one of the best ways is actually through regression or hypnosis with someone who's really good at guiding and not, you know, not dictating what it is, but
Right, right.
Mhm.
really in that process, you're getting to perhaps what is the root cause of whatever an issue might be. Let's say it's a blockage or limitation that you have in this earth life. So when you get to the root cause, it may be from your childhood, but likely it's from a different parallel life. And when you're able to see that, and then you can make a choice. Do you want to rewrite it, like rewriting a screenplay? Do you want to rewrite the movie, or do you want to let it play out, but understand what it did for you? Like, what was the benefit for you from that higher perspective? And when you do that, then you don't have any more emotional charge on it. And it's always about releasing that emotion, the stuck emotion.
Hmm.
That then when you come out of that reality, it actually rewires the brain naturally and physiologically.
And therefore you start to heal.
You heal, yeah,
Yeah.
have changes in your relationships, in your career, your finances, all the things.
Right. It's like these
Yep.
things that we don't even have like it takes this level of awareness to understand the little subtleties that are holding us back. And
Yeah,
that's when you really got to dig deep and it does go back to like some inner child trauma or whatever it is. Uh, it's not necessarily the most ideal path as far as being fun, but the reward is much greater at the end because now you can find true happiness and purpose in life instead of like repeating or attracting the same lessons or situations over and over.
exactly. Like, and I get this, I've had a lot of lessons in this life. So after I left my second husband, I realized I'm the common denominator here in these relationships, even though like I judged them as toxic and I was the victim and all of that. But I'm like, okay, I'm the common denominator here. I need to do the deep dive healing in myself so that I can create a new reality. And so that's what I did.
Right. Yeah, that's
Yep.
fascinating. And having the humility to self-correct and look in the mirror and admit that, okay, I'm the problem. That's the hardest part. But that's the most you experience the most growth from that. Um,
I think what,
admitting, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. Just, I think that people forget and and we all come in to forget who we really are. But we come here, we chose to be here at this time. We chose to play these roles for each other, to experience all of this.
Hmm.
And so when we actually remember that and that we are in control No one is in control over us. We are the ones in control. That's when we can actually start again having fun in this game of Earth.
Right. Right. Absolutely. I agree.
Exactly.
And like that's a message that's come up for me lately is you need to have fun again. Like, don't forget to have fun. Yeah, this is serious work we're all doing here. We're on this mission, but like we said earlier, but it's been coming up a lot for me lately. And what does fun even look like anymore? And that you have to figure that out for yourself and what makes you happy. So before we wrap this up, which we're getting ready to, I want to ask you, what has your experience been with the mantids, the praying mantis beings?
I love them. They're one of my favorites. So my experience with them is as master healers, master genetic engineers, like the most ancient and wise. And so when I do my healing work, it is pulling through the Arcturian energy, but also the Syrian energy and the Mantid energy, because I'm very, very much connected to that Mantid realm in terms of that master healing energy.
So when you say master geneticist, like I understand what that is, but in what capacity, how have they been working with Earth in that capacity?
So, from my perspective, they are actually the creators of the human form in the Lyra constellation. They in our galaxy. So they are the ones that kind of engineered this human body. And they themselves are not necessarily insectoid like in their true form, but that is the form that they show to people. But that is them being master geneticists and then healers, and they are part of that Zeta human hybrid program, overseers as geneticists.
Okay, so that's interesting, and that raises the question because we hear like the Lyrans were like one of the first humanoid races to come out of the whole
Mhm.
galactic origins, right? But that means the mantids were before them if they were
Correct.
creating that. How does that, can you explain how you understand that?
Well, so I mean, the universe is infinite, right?
Right,
And so um, the human we're not necessarily the be all end all of forms.
right.
We're just simply a form. And so who whatever expression the mantis were, they decided to create the human form,
I see.
are known as the founders. And so they they basically it's like playing in the lab. Let's
Interesting. Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I believe that. I'm trying to understand it a little better, because it's such a fascinating thing to think about. And then you just realize that we know nothing, you know, like it kind of makes sense to our human mind, but there's really no way to comprehend what's going on there, I don't think, from a 3D perspective.
Yeah. Well, and I think we get too caught up in what do they physically look like or that they are physical.
Right.
A lot of, I mean, most of these beings are actually more energy or collective consciousness kind of
Yes.
um, energies. They are not physical like we are. And some of them have never expressed themselves physically down to third dimension, dense
Right.
like we are. They've
Hmm.
only been maybe sixth or higher dimension.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think, one of the things that quantum physicists told me here in Sedona, in his time working with the shadow government, he said that there are races, beings that come here that don't have a physical form, and we have a place for them if they want to come to Earth, and they actually choose an avatar. And it could be a reptilian, a human, a Nordic, whatever, an ant being, whatever it is. They actually come and choose an avatar and decide to live that life out. And I thought he might have been like, okay, I'd never heard that from anyone. But Daniel Salter, Life with the Cosmos Clearance, he talks about being involved with that very specific program as well. He said that they do that. That's exactly what happens, and he was involved in it as well. So we have two people now that come from this program that say that's the case, and I find that to be a very interesting piece of information because we have to like that. That takes us to a whole new level now. These beings are coming here without form. They're choosing an avatar, but they might choose a reptilian, but they might not be reptilian, or they might not. They might choose human, but they might not be human.
Yeah. Well, and okay. So we're the same when we choose these human forms to
Right,
play on Earth, right?
right,
We choose our parents, we choose our genetics, we choose the lessons we want to come here to experience because we are energy, we are consciousness. That is
right,
who we really are. So
Yep.
we're also picking our avatar.
right.
Right.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
real
yeah.
you
We're
is not the body, it's the soul, it's the energy inhabiting, experiencing the body for a temporary amount of time. And then you've had all these other experiences, whether you remember them or not, as other beings, other types of, so
Yeah.
like the conversation has to go beyond, oh, I am a human. It's like, no, you're experiencing a human right now. That's not the real you. The real you is, like you just said, is beyond all
right.
of this. Right.
Yeah,
And that ends racism. That ends like all, when you really understand that, that ends all the BS that we deal with on that level of like wars and fighting over, what race is better or religion's better or whatever. It's like all that superficial
Yes.
stuff that
right,
doesn't matter. We're all beyond all that. Right.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, but I would say the only difference is between that story I just told and us is that so we're choosing to form through the birthing process, right?
Hmm.
A natural birthing process, and these ETs or whatever, we're choosing that form through almost a cloned body type of avatar, the way it was described, and they have awareness of who they are in that body, so they don't have that amnesia. So there's a whole different thing happening there, which I find fascinating, and I think that's even the case with some people we encounter in everyday life. Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've met aliens or ETs or somebody in that human form that isn't actually a human,
Yeah.
and
Well,
and knows it.
you've
Yeah,
probably met walk-ins too. I
right.
know several walk-ins. And so that's another similar kind of thing where that body's already existing and
Yes.
then a new
Hmm.
consciousness comes in.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Well, this has been absolutely fascinating conversation and very
Yeah.
mind expanding as well. I think we got pretty deep here. I love the way you answer your questions. I love where you're coming at from all this, or where you're coming from, whatever, what I'm trying to say. I think it's really important the work that you're doing. So can you please explain or let the audience know how to find you, what you offer, everything, your website and all that stuff?
Yeah, thank you so much. So my website, there are two places to get to me that direct you to the same place, which is Mystic Manta, like mantaray.com or drlisaj.thompson.com, because there are a lot of Lisa Thompsons out there.
Yeah.
And so that's where my healing services are. I offer retreats. I have my certification program for my infinity healing method that's going to be coming up at the beginning of the year. I have different classes. So I do have Wisdom of the Galactics activation series, which is a 14-part series that you can get instant access to connect with these ET beings yourself and get your own experience with them. And then if you're ever here coming to the Big Island of Hawaii, specifically Big Island, Kona side, then I have bigislandUFOtours.com where I do a night sky watch using Generation 3 military night vision goggles. And then I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm galactic underscore Dr. Lisa Thompson.
Well, thank you. And those links are below. I've already put them in the description. And there's a good chance that people in our audience will be coming to the Kona side of the Big Island in April for our conference. So they might be seeing you there, and we will definitely be connecting and setting up a UFO tour. I think that would be wonderful, actually. And I think it would just be an exciting add-on to the event. So thank you for doing that. Can't wait to come and meet you in person. And yeah, just thank you for all that you're doing, Aaron. Did you have any last words?
No, second, all of that. Yeah. Can't wait for all of that. And it's going to be exciting. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been phenomenal. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you
So
for
sorry it took so long and we had to reschedule and stuff, but we made it and it was
Yeah.
awesome. So
having me.
yeah. And anytime that you have something more you'd like to share, just come back and we'll do it again.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys all for being here in the chat. Don't forget if you want to be entered to win a $200 discount on your ticket for the Hawaii conference, purchase your ticket before Black Friday. And our Secret Space Program documentary is on the horizon, and there is a private screening here in Sedona on January 9th. There are 3 or 4 tickets left only for that theater. If you want to come be a part of that night, you can find that information at journeytotruth.online as well as the Hawaii information. That being said, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us, Lisa. This was a pleasure. And until next time, have a great evening, everyone. We love you.